Listen to how he characterizes African Americans, Hispanics, and veterans.
We've seen record lows in unemployment, particularly, and I've focused on this my whole career, particularly for African Americans and Hispanic workers and veterans. You know, the workers without high school diplomas.
Oh my God.
You know,
Okay.
he didn't mean it that way. He didn't mean it that way, but it's just,
So I'm sure.
you know, he's such a poor talker now. And then also some of these things he says that just are very tone deaf on racial issues. He is he's a creature of the 1970s. You know, that's the environment he grew up in, and he spoke about things differently, and he still has that tendency. So I tend to, give him a pass on this stuff, but it doesn't make it any less painful to
I don't give him
watch
a
or listen
pass.
to.
I don't give him a pass. We've had Victor Davis Hanson on, who's got something close to a photographic memory, and he'll give you the list right off the top of his head of the 25 racist comments that Joe Biden has made. I do believe when he says African Americans and Hispanics, veterans, the ones without high school diplomas, that's what he means. Blacks don't graduate from high school, and neither do Hispanics, and neither do veterans. I believe that. Now, I will say this. The White House tried to clean it up by, in the transcript, adding the word and. So the transcript is African Americans, Hispanics, veterans, and the ones without the high school.
There are two people of unappreciated importance in this White House. One is whoever's in charge of the transcripts, right? Just like changing what the president says on the fly. The other who is whoever was in that Easter Bunny outfit, who was shepherding Biden around at the Easter egg roll, which turned out to be like a sign of things to come. He really needs that bunny at every single event now, telling him who he's going to call on, telling him when to stop, and very importantly, ushering him off stage in the right direction.
What about you miss the signer? The person who does the sign language has to interpret what the hell Joe Biden is saying when he's saying it. Poor person.
It's tough duty.
Hopefully they have a running transcript of the prepared remarks. There is a question. You mentioned the Easter Bunny of who's really in control and whether Joe Biden, who the hell's telling him what to do? Because he's the commander in chief. He's the leader of the free world. He's the president of the United States. And yet you get comments over and over in virtually every appearance now. They're inadvertent, they appear. Like this one. Take a listen to Sat 2.
Let me close with this. And there's a lot more I know we could talk about. I wish I had a chance to take all your questions, but I'm going to get in real trouble if I do that.
Trouble with whom? Who's the boss of you? It's a pattern. You've heard it as many times as I have, right? Like, they won't let me call on you. Here's my list of the people I'm allowed to call on. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. So, he's stage managed. He has to be stage managed now. They won't, as I think you noted in the Trump interview, there's no way Joe Biden would sit down and do that kind of interview. He just wouldn't be capable of it. Clearly, at least the people who are in charge of making such decisions don't think he's capable of it. So one of my colleagues joked, I now forget his name, but when the first White House chief of staff resigned, it's like, this is huge. This is the first president to resign, in the middle of his term in memory, because obviously whoever's the chief of staff at any given moment has to be the most powerful chief of staff that we've had in decades and decades. Now, I think, the basic policy mix, it reflects where Joe Biden is. But if he has trouble getting off the stage, he clearly needs more help in other areas too.
I want to we're going to have Peter Schweitzer on in just a bit, and he's an expert on all the stuff around Hunter Biden. But I want to get your take on the news yesterday. I listened to you, of course, on the editors, and I listen to you and Andy every Friday. Looking forward to today's drop. But I'm curious what your reaction was yesterday to finally David Weiss, who seems he seems a lot closer to being a Hunter Biden defense attorney than an aggressive prosecutor, announces that he's bringing 3 gun charges against Hunter moments before the statute of limitations expired. If he was going to do it at all, he had to do it right now. And, the messaging from the Biden administration is, see, it's a fair DOJ. You see, they'll go after anybody who breaks the law.
Yeah. So as Andy McCarthy, my colleague, former prosecutor, obviously, just says this is a 1-paragraph indictment. And the idea that it's taken years and you're up against the statute of limitations to do this a completely uncomplicated charge is absurd and just goes to how every possible consideration has been given to Hunter Biden in this case and in this matter. And the only reason we got here is because the plea deal was so unprecedented and generous to the defendant, to the accused, that it fell apart upon its first contact with the judge. And that's why Weiss finally had to charge this case. But the biggest thing, though, is, end of the day, this is a crime. Yes, he should be charged, but this is not the main thing. The main event is what James Comer and Republicans have been on. It's the influence peddling business and Joe Biden's role in it. And Weiss has let all that stuff, or at least a lot of it, when Joe was vice president, he's let the statute of limitations lapse on it. So even if the crime's there, if they're uncovered, it's just too late. And in part is because it was a deliberate slow walk to avoid anything uncomfortable involving Hunter and especially his dad.
Convicting a Murderer is a new 10-part true crime docuseries from Daily Wire Plus, hosted by Candace Owens, that dives deep into the infamous case of Stephen Avery. Making a Murderer popularized the Stephen Avery case and portrayed him as an innocent victim of corrupt law enforcement. But is there more to the story? In this series, Candace unveils startling evidence, uncovers edited phone calls and testimony, and unravels a narrative that stands in stark contrast to the portrayal you might believe. Episodes 1 and 2 are available to stream for free on Daily Wire Plus. Episode 3 is also available now, but you got to be a member of Daily Wire Plus to watch it. New episodes air every Thursday. Just check out this link, dwplus.watch/Kelly, dwplus.watch/Kelly, to start watching episode 1 for free now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.